The moment Amelia Harper locked eyes with the stranger across the dusty street of Stockton, California, she knew three things about him. He had killed a man, he carried guilt heavier than the iron on his hip, and he was running from something that would catch up to him eventually. It was 1878, and the summer heat made the air shimmer like water over the packed dirt roads, but Amelia stood perfectly still outside the general store, her basket of supplies forgotten at her side as she studied the cowboy who had just dismounted his horse at the saloon. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-darkened skin and dark hair that needed cutting. His clothes were trail-worn, his boots covered in the kind of dust that spoke of hard miles. But it was his eyes that told Amelia the story. Even from 30 feet away, she could see the weight in them, the way they darted cautiously before settling, the set of his jaw that said he expected trouble because trouble had been his companion for a long time. Amelia had always been able to read people. Since she was a little girl growing up in Missouri, she had possessed an uncanny ability to see past the masks people wore, to understand their secrets with just a glance, a gesture, the way they held themselves. Her mother had called it a gift from God. Her father had called it unnatural and warned her to keep it to herself. After both her parents died of fever when she was 17, Amelia had made her way west, using her gift to avoid dangerous men and situations, to find honest work, to build a life in a place where a woman alone needed every advantage she could get. Now 23 and working as a seamstress in Stockton, she had seen hundreds of men pass through this town. Prospectors, gamblers, ranch hands, outlaws, and everything in between. She could read them all. The liars, the cheaters, the violent ones, the broken ones. She had learned to trust her gift completely because it had never steered her wrong. But this man was different. As she watched him tie his horse and adjust his gun belt, Amelia saw layers she rarely encountered. Yes, there was violence in his past, but it was defensive, protective. Yes, there was guilt, but it was the guilt of a man with a conscience, not a murderer who felt nothing. And yes, he was running, but he was running towards something as much as away from something. He turned then, and their eyes met fully for the first time. Amelia felt her breath catch. In that instant, she read something else in him, something that made her heart beat faster. Underneath all the pain and the wariness, there was goodness. Real, solid goodness. The kind of goodness that could not be faked or hidden, not from her. This was a man who had made mistakes, certainly, but who was trying to be better. A man who still believed in things worth believing in. The cowboy seemed frozen by her gaze as well. He removed his hat slowly, revealing a face that would have been handsome, if not for the exhaustion etched into every line. He nodded to her, a gesture of respect, and Amelia found herself nodding back before she could think better of it. Then he turned and walked into the saloon, and Amelia realized she had been holding her breath. She picked up her basket and hurried back to her small cottage behind the dress shop where she worked, her mind racing. In all her years of reading people, she had never felt quite that jolt of recognition, that sense that someone mattered in a way she could not quite explain. It unsettled her and excited her in equal measure. That evening, as she sat at her sewing machine working on a dress for Mrs. Patterson, the banker's wife, Amelia could not stop thinking about the stranger. She wondered what his name was, what had brought him to Stockton, whether he would stay or move on like so many did. She wondered if he had felt that same strange connection when their eyes met, or if it had been only her seeing too much as always. She pricked her finger with a needle and swore softly, something she rarely did. This would not do. She could not let herself get distracted by a man she did not even know, a man who was clearly carrying trouble with him. Amelia had worked hard to build a safe, stable life. She had a roof over her head, steady work, a few friends in town. She did not need complications, but when she finally went to bed that night, she dreamed of dark eyes and a voice she had not yet heard. The next morning, Amelia was hanging freshly washed linens in the small yard behind her cottage when she heard horses and shouting from the main street. She dropped the sheet she was holding and hurried around to the front, where a crowd was gathering near the sheriff's office. 3 men on horseback sat in the middle of the street, their horses stamping nervously. Even from a distance, Amelia could read their intentions, and her blood ran cold. These were bad men. Not just rough or crude, but genuinely dangerous. The one in the middle had dead eyes, empty of empathy or conscience. The 2 flanking him were followers, men who would do terrible things because someone else told them to. "We are looking for someone," the man in the middle announced loudly. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Goes by the name of Ryder Finch. Anyone seen him?" Amelia's heart jumped. She did not know why, but she was certain they were looking for the stranger from yesterday, the cowboy with the guilty eyes and the good heart. Whatever trouble he was running from, it had just caught up to him. Sheriff Morrison stepped out of his office, his hand resting casually on his gun. Morrison was a decent man, fair and steady, though not particularly brave. "Who is asking?" he called back. "Name is Cade. These are my brothers. Ryder Finch killed our youngest brother 6 months back in Nevada. We have been tracking him ever since." Amelia's gift told her this was partly true and partly lie. Someone had died, that was real, but the version of events Cade was presenting was twisted, shaped to justify what he wanted to do. She could see it in the set of his shoulders, hear it in the way he emphasized certain words. "Even if this Finch fellow is in town, I cannot just hand him over," Morrison said carefully. "I would need to hear his side of things. Due process." Cade's smile was cold. "We will give you until tomorrow morning, Sheriff. If you have not produced Finch by then, we will find him ourselves, and anyone who gets in our way will regret it." With that, the 3 men turned their horses and rode toward the hotel, leaving a wake of tension behind them. Amelia stood frozen as the crowd began to disperse, people muttering nervously to each other. She knew what she had to do, even though every practical bone in her body told her it was foolish. She had to find Ryder Finch before Cade and his brothers did. She had to warn him. But more than that, she had to know the truth. Her gift told her that Ryder was fundamentally good, but she needed to understand what had really happened. She needed to hear it from him. She found him an hour later at the livery stable, checking on his horse. He was brushing down the animal with careful, practiced motions, murmuring softly to it. Amelia watched for a moment from the doorway, noting the gentleness in his movements, the way the horse responded to him with trust. "Ryder Finch," she said quietly. His hand froze mid-stroke, and he turned slowly to face her. Up close, in the dim light of the stable, she could see him even more clearly. He was younger than she had first thought, probably only about 26 or 27. His eyes were dark brown, almost black, and they fixed on her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "How do you know my name?" His voice was deep, rough from lack of use, but not unkind. "3 men rode into town this morning looking for you, said their name was Cade, said you killed their brother." She watched his face carefully as she spoke. She saw recognition, pain, resignation, but not surprise. He had known they were coming, she realized. Maybe not today, maybe not here, but eventually. "I did kill him," Ryder said quietly, his eyes never leaving hers, "but not the way they will tell it." "Then tell me the way it really happened." He studied her for a long moment, and Amelia felt as though he was reading her just as carefully as she was reading him. Finally, he set down the brush and leaned against the stable wall, his arms crossed over his chest. 6 months ago, I was working on a ranch outside of Virginia City. Small operation, just me and the owner, a man named Samuel Chen. Good man, fair employer. He had a daughter, maybe 16 years old, pretty girl, shy. Ryder's jaw tightened. The youngest Cade brother, Jake, started coming around. At first, Samuel thought maybe he was interested in buying some horses, but then we realized what he really wanted. Amelia felt her stomach turn. She could guess where this was going. Samuel told him to stay away from his daughter. Jake did not take it well. He came back with a couple of friends one night when Samuel was in town. I was in the barn. I heard the girl screaming. Ryder's hands clenched into fists. I got there as fast as I could. Jake had her pinned down. She was fighting him, crying. I pulled him off her and he came at me with a knife. We fought. He was drunk, clumsy. I got the knife away from him and then he pulled a gun. It was him or me. I chose me. The words were simple, but Amelia could hear the weight of that night in every syllable. She could see it in the haunted look in his eyes. What happened after? I made sure the girl was all right, got her back to the house. Samuel came home and we reported it to the law. The sheriff investigated and ruled it self-defense, but Cade and his brothers, they did not see it that way. They swore they would kill me. Samuel gave me enough money to run and told me to get as far away as I could. I have been moving ever since. Amelia believed him. Her gift confirmed every word, showed her the truth of that terrible night, the impossible choice he had been forced to make. Ryder Finch was not a murderer. He was a man who had done what he had to do to save an innocent girl. Why did you stop running? She asked. Why come here? Ryder looked away, and for the first time she saw something close to vulnerability in his expression. I am tired, he admitted. Tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of being alone, tired of running. I thought maybe if I came to California far enough from Nevada, I could finally stop, could finally start over. He laughed bitterly. Guess I was wrong. You are not wrong, Amelia said firmly. They have no legal claim on you. The law ruled it self-defense. Sheriff Morrison is a fair man. He will not let them take you. Fair men do not always win against determined killers, Ryder said. I do not want anyone else getting hurt because of me. I will leave tonight before they start looking. It is safer that way. No. The word came out more forcefully than Amelia had intended. Ryder looked at her in surprise. No, she repeated softer this time. You are done running. This stops here. And how do you propose we do that? Amelia took a deep breath. We tell the truth, publicly. We get Sheriff Morrison to wire Virginia City, confirm your story. We make it clear to everyone in town what really happened. The Cade brothers are outnumbered here. If the whole town knows they are just seeking revenge for a man who was rightly killed defending a girl, they will have no support. They will have no choice but to back down or face the consequences. Ryder stared at her as though she had sprouted wings. You do not even know me. Why would you stick your neck out like this? It was a fair question, and Amelia was not entirely sure she had a good answer. But she thought of the way she had felt when their eyes first met. The certainty in her gut that this man mattered, that he was worth fighting for. I can read people, she said simply. I have been able to my whole life. One look and I know if someone is lying, if they are dangerous, if they are good or bad deep down. I looked at you yesterday and I knew you were a good man carrying a heavy burden. Today you confirmed it. So I'm not sticking my neck out for a stranger. I am doing what is right. Ryder pushed off from the wall and took a step closer to her. He was tall enough that Amelia had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. You can really do that? He asked quietly. Read people like that? I can. What else did you read in me? The question hung in the air between them. Amelia felt her cheeks warm, but she did not look away. I read that you have been lonely for a long time, that you want to believe good things can still happen, but you are afraid to hope, that you think you do not deserve peace because of what you have done. And I read that you are wrong about that last part. Ryder's breath caught. For a long moment he said nothing, just looked at her with an expression she could not quite name. Then very quietly he said, What is your name? Amelia. Amelia Harper. Amelia, he repeated, as though testing how it felt in his mouth. That is a beautiful name. Thank you. I hope you like what you read in me, he said, and there was something almost vulnerable in the words, a hope he was afraid to fully express. Because I would very much like to stay in this town, and I would very much like to get to know the woman who can see right through me. Amelia felt warmth spread through her chest. I do like what I read, she said softly, very much. They stood there in the dusty stable, the summer heat making the air heavy around them, and Amelia knew with absolute certainty that her life had just changed direction. Whatever came next, whether they succeeded in stopping the Cade brothers or not, she and Ryder Finch were bound together now. She could feel it as surely as she could feel her own heartbeat. "All right," Ryder said finally, a hint of a smile touching his lips for the first time. "Let us go talk to your sheriff. If you think we can make this work, I am willing to try. I am tired of running anyway. Might as well make a stand somewhere. Might as well be here with you." They walked together from the stable to the sheriff's office, and Amelia was acutely aware of Ryder's presence beside her, the way people's eyes followed them, the whispers that started up in their wake. News traveled fast in a town like Stockton. By nightfall, everyone would know that the stranger the Cade brothers were hunting had found an ally in the seamstress with the strange gift. Sheriff Morrison listened to their story with his characteristic calm attention, his weathered face giving nothing away. When Ryder finished speaking, Morrison leaned back in his chair and stroked his mustache thoughtfully. "That is quite a tale," he said. "And you are saying the sheriff in Virginia City can confirm it?" "Yes, sir, Sheriff Grant. He has all the documentation. Witness statements, the ruling of self-defense, everything." Morrison nodded slowly. "I will wire him today. Should hear back by tomorrow morning at the latest." He fixed Ryder with a stern look. "Until then, I would appreciate it if you would stay put. Do not leave town, do not start any trouble. And I would suggest you stay somewhere public where I can keep an eye on things. The hotel, maybe, or the boarding house." "I can pay for a room," Ryder said. "Good, Miss Harper, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention, though I have to say it is a dangerous thing you are doing involving yourself in this matter." "Sheriff Morrison, you know my gift," Amelia said. "You know I do not make mistakes about people. Ryder is telling the truth. The Cade brothers are the dangerous ones, not him." Morrison sighed. "I know, Amelia. And between you and me, I believe you. But believing and proving are two different things. Let me get that wire back from Nevada, and then we will take it from there. In the meantime, both of you be careful. The Cade brothers did not ride all this way just to turn around peacefully." They left the office together, and Ryder turned to Amelia with something like wonder in his eyes. "You told the sheriff you have a gift. He believed you. He knows about your ability." "A few people in town know," Amelia admitted. "I have used it before to help identify a thief, to warn people about a con man passing through. Morrison has seen it work enough times to trust it, even if he does not fully understand it." "And the others? The rest of the town?" "Some think I am strange. Some think I am useful. Some avoid me because they do not like the idea that someone can see their secrets." She smiled ruefully. "I am used to it." Ryder shook his head slowly. "It must be lonely having a gift like that, always seeing the truth, even when people try to hide it." Amelia was surprised by his insight. Most people focused on how useful her ability must be, how much it must help her. Ryder was the first person to recognize the isolation that came with it. "It can be," she admitted, "but it also keeps me safe, and occasionally it helps me recognize someone worth knowing." She met his eyes meaningfully. Ryder's expression softened. "I am glad you think I am worth knowing. Because right now, you are the only person in 100 miles who knows the truth about me and believes it. That means more than I can say." They walked together toward the boarding house, where Ryder secured a room for the next few nights. As he signed the register, Mrs. Kelly, the proprietor, eyed him suspiciously. "You are the one those rough men are looking for," she said bluntly. "I am," Ryder confirmed, "but I am not what they are claiming. Sheriff Morrison is investigating right now. The truth will come out." "Mrs." Kelly glanced at Amelia. "And you believe him, do you?" "I do, completely." The older woman pursed her lips, then nodded once. "Good enough for me. But I will not have any violence in my establishment, you understand? If those men come here looking for trouble, you take it outside." "Yes, madam, I promise." As Ryder went upstairs to settle into his room, Amelia returned to her cottage, her mind whirling with everything that had happened. In the space of 24 hours, she had gone from living her quiet, careful life to being directly involved in a conflict that could turn deadly. It should have frightened her. Instead, she felt more alive than she had in years. That night, Amelia could not sleep. She lay in her bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Ryder. She thought about the pain in his eyes when he had told her about that night in Nevada, the way his voice had roughened with emotion. She thought about how he had gently brushed his horse, the care in his movements. She thought about the way he had looked at her in the stable, with hope and longing and something deeper that she was not quite ready to name. She had read hundreds of people in her life, but she had never felt this pull toward any of them. There was something about Ryder that called to her, that made her want to know everything about him, to help heal the wounds he carried, to give him the peace and belonging he so clearly craved. It was dangerous to feel this way about someone she barely knew. Amelia understood that intellectually, but her gift had never led her wrong, and her gift told her that Ryder Finch was exactly who she had been waiting for, even if she had not known she was waiting. The next morning, Amelia rose early and dressed carefully, choosing a simple blue dress that brought out the color of her eyes. She told herself she was not dressing up for anyone in particular, but she knew it was a lie. She was making coffee when she heard the knock at her door. Opening it, she found Ryder standing on her small porch, hat in hand. He had cleaned up, shaved, changed into a fresh shirt. He looked younger without the trail dust and exhaustion, and Amelia felt her breath catch at how handsome he was. "Good morning," he said. "I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all. Would you like some coffee?" "I would, thank you." She poured 2 cups, and they sat together on her porch, watching Stockton wake up around them. Merchants were opening their shops, women were hanging laundry, children were chasing each other through the streets. It was peaceful, ordinary, the kind of morning that made you believe nothing bad could happen. "I have been thinking," Ryder said after a moment, "about what you said yesterday about being able to read people. That must be a heavy weight to carry, always knowing the truth even when it is ugly." Amelia sipped her coffee, considering her answer. "It can be. When I was younger, I would tell people what I saw, thinking I was helping. But I learned quickly that most people do not want their secrets exposed. They do not want to be known that completely. So I learned to keep quiet, to only use my gift when necessary." "But you used it on me right away. You told me what you saw." "You are different," Amelia said simply. "I saw goodness in you, not something to hide. And I thought you deserved to know that someone could see past the guilt you carry, could see the truth of who you are." Ryder set down his coffee cup and turned to face her fully. "Can I tell you something? Yesterday, when we first locked eyes across the street, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. I've never believed in things like fate or destiny, but in that moment, I knew you were important. I knew you were going to change my life, and I was right." Amelia's heart was racing. "I felt it too," she admitted. "I thought I was being foolish, reading too much into a glance, but it was real." "It was real," Ryder confirmed. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and gently took her hand. His palm was calloused, warm, his grip careful, as though he was holding something precious. "Amelia, I know this is fast. I know we barely know each other, but I want to know you. I want to stay in this town and build something here, and I want to do it with you if you will have me." Before Amelia could answer, they heard shouting from the main street. Both of them jumped to their feet and hurried toward the commotion. A crowd had gathered outside the sheriff's office. Amelia could see Morrison standing on the steps, holding a piece of paper with the Cade brothers mounted on their horses in front of him. She and Ryder pushed through the crowd until they were close enough to hear. "I have confirmation from Sheriff Grant in Virginia City," Morrison was saying loudly, his voice carrying across the crowd. "The killing of Jake Cade was investigated and ruled self-defense. Ryder Finch acted to stop an assault and defended himself when attacked. He is wanted for no crime. You have no legal claim on him." Cade's face was like stone. "Legal claim means nothing. He killed our brother. That is all that matters." "It matters to me," Morrison said firmly, "and it should matter to you. Your brother was in the wrong. He was trying to hurt a young girl. Ryder Finch saved her and defended himself. That is the truth, and you need to accept it. The only thing I need to accept is that Finch is going to die, Cade said coldly. His hand moved toward his gun. In an instant, Morrison had his own gun out and aimed. Do not do it. You draw on me, you will hang. That is a promise. The tension in the air was suffocating. Amelia could read the calculation in Cade's eyes, the battle between his desire for revenge and his survival instinct. For a long moment, no one moved. Then a voice from the crowd spoke up. Morrison is right. The law is the law. Another voice joined in. We do not abide killing here, not when a man has been cleared. More people started speaking up, a rumble of agreement that grew louder. Amelia felt Ryder's hand find hers and squeeze gently. She squeezed back, her heart swelling with hope. Cade looked around at the crowd, his expression turning from cold to poisonous. This is not over, he said, his eyes finding Ryder. You hear me, Finch? This is not over. It is over, Ryder said, stepping forward. His voice was steady, clear. Your brother made a choice. I made a choice. We both have to live with the consequences. I have to live knowing I took a life, even if it was justified. You have to live knowing your brother was trying to do something terrible. The difference is I am willing to carry that weight and move on. The question is, are you? For just a moment, Amelia saw something flicker in Cade's eyes. Doubt, maybe, or the shadow of grief underneath all that rage. But then it was gone, hardening back into cold determination. We are leaving, Cade said to his brothers, but this is not finished. They turned their horses and rode out of town, leaving a trail of dust and tension behind them. The crowd began to disperse, people talking in low, excited voices. Morrison approached Ryder and Amelia, holstering his gun. That could have gone worse, he said, but I do not think they are going to give up easy. You need to watch yourself, Finch. I will, Sheriff, and thank you for believing me, for standing up for me. Morrison glanced at Amelia. Thank Miss Harper. She is the one who convinced me to investigate properly, and her gift has never been wrong before. Over the next few days, Stockton slowly returned to normal, though there was an undercurrent of tension that had not been there before. Ryder stayed in town, finding work at the livery stable and then at one of the nearby ranches that needed extra hands for the season. He proved himself to be a hard worker, skilled with horses and livestock, and gradually people began to accept him as part of the community. Amelia and Ryder spent every free moment together. They would take walks in the evening, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in Texas, about losing his parents to illness when he was young, about drifting from job to job, trying to find a place that felt like home. She told him about Missouri, about her parents and the confusion of discovering her gift, about the loneliness of always seeing too much in people. Do you ever wish you could turn it off? Ryder asked one evening as they sat by the small creek that ran through the edge of town. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Sometimes, Amelia admitted, it would be nice to take people at face value, to not always be analyzing and reading them. But then I think about how it led me to you, and I cannot wish it away. Ryder turned to her, his dark eyes intense. Amelia, I need to tell you something. These past few days with you have been the happiest I have had in longer than I can remember. You make me believe that I can have a future, that I can be more than just a man running from his past. You make me want to be better. You are already good, Amelia said softly. You just need to see it in yourself. I see it in your eyes, he said. When you look at me, I see what you see, and it gives me hope. He leaned in slowly, and Amelia met him halfway. Their first kiss was gentle, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, Amelia felt as though her heart might burst from the fullness of it. I am falling in love with you, Ryder whispered. I know it is fast. I know we should probably take things slower, but I cannot help it. You are everything I have been looking for without knowing I was looking. I am falling in love with you too, Amelia said, and the words felt like a gift she was giving herself permission to accept. and I do not care if it is fast. When you know, you know." They kissed again, deeper this time, and Amelia felt the world narrow down to just the two of them, to the warmth of his lips and the strength of his arms around her. For the first time in her life, she was not reading someone, not analyzing or assessing. She was just feeling, just being, just loving. The weeks that followed were like a dream. Ryder moved out of the boarding house and into a small cabin on the ranch where he worked. He started saving money, making plans. He talked about the future with a certainty that made Amelia's heart sing. They talked about building a life together, about marriage, about all the possibilities that lay ahead. But in the back of Amelia's mind, there was always a shadow. The memory of Cade's cold eyes, the promise that it was not over. She tried to push it away, to focus on the happiness she had found, but her gift whispered warnings she could not quite silence. One night, about 6 weeks after the confrontation in town, Amelia woke to the sound of breaking glass. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding, and smelled smoke. Fire. She stumbled out of bed and threw open her door. Flames were licking up the side of her cottage, spreading fast. She grabbed her shawl and her small box of important papers and ran outside, coughing in the smoke. People were already gathering, forming a bucket brigade from the creek. Amelia stood watching her home burn, numb with shock. Then she felt strong arms around her, and she turned to find Ryder there, his face streaked with soot. "Thank God you're all right," he said, pulling her close. "I saw the fire from the ranch and rode as fast as I could." "It was them," Amelia said, her voice shaking. "The Cade brothers. They came back." "We do not know that," Ryder said, but his eyes told her he believed it too. By the time they got the fire under control, half of Amelia's cottage was destroyed. She stood looking at the ruins, feeling tears track down her cheeks. Everything she had built, the safe life she had created, was gone. "You are coming back to the ranch with me," Ryder said firmly. "The boss has a spare room in the main house. You will stay there until we figure this out. Ryder, I cannot keep putting you in danger. If this was the Cade brothers, they are sending a message. They are telling me to stay away from you or pay the price." Ryder turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "No, they are not going to win. They are not going to scare you away from me or scare me out of town. We are going to fight this together. Do you understand? Together." Amelia looked into his eyes and saw the same thing she had seen that first day: goodness, determination, and now love. So much love, it made her ache. "Together," she agreed. Sheriff Morrison investigated the fire, but there was no proof of who had set it. The Cade brothers had not been seen in town, but that did not mean they had not been there. Morrison promised to keep looking, to send word to other towns to watch for them, but Amelia could read the frustration in his face. Without evidence, his hands were tied. Amelia moved into the spare room at the ranch where Ryder worked. The owner, Mr. David Powell, was a gruff but kind man in his 50s who had built his small cattle operation through hard work and fair dealing. He took one look at Amelia's situation and insisted she stay as long as she needed. "Cannot have a good woman like you sleeping rough because of some cowards," he said. "You stay here, help my wife with the mending if you want to feel useful, and we will call it square." His wife, Martha, was equally welcoming. She was a cheerful woman with graying hair and a ready smile, and she took Amelia under her wing immediately. Within days, Amelia had settled into a routine at the ranch, spending her mornings helping Martha with household tasks and her afternoons working on sewing projects for people in town. And every evening she spent time with Ryder. They would sit on the porch of his cabin talking as the sun set. Sometimes they would ride out to check on the cattle, enjoying the peace of the open land. Sometimes they would simply sit in comfortable silence, hand in hand, content just to be near each other. "I love you," Ryder said one evening, the words coming easily now, naturally. "I love everything about you. Your strength, your kindness, your gift, the way you see me. I want to marry you, Amelia. I want to build a life with you." Amelia felt joy flood through her. "I want that too, more than anything." "Then marry me. Not someday. Not when things are settled. Marry me now. Marry me because life is uncertain and we should not waste the time we have. Yes, Amelia said, laughing and crying at the same time. Yes, I will marry you. They were wed a week later in a simple ceremony at the small church in Stockton. Martha and David stood as witnesses, along with a handful of friends Amelia had made in town. Sheriff Morrison attended, keeping a watchful eye for any sign of trouble. But the Cade brothers did not appear, and the ceremony went off without incident. As Ryder slipped a simple gold band onto Amelia's finger, she looked into his eyes and read her whole future there. A future of love and partnership, of building something real and lasting, of facing whatever came together. I love you, she whispered, as they sealed their vows with a kiss. I love you too, Ryder said against her lips. Always. The celebration afterward was modest but joyful. Martha had made a cake, and David broke out a bottle of whiskey he had been saving for a special occasion. People from town brought small gifts and well wishes. For a few hours, Amelia let herself believe that everything would be all right, that the Cade brothers had finally given up and moved on. But that night, as she and Ryder lay together in his cabin, now their cabin, she could not quite shake the feeling that the storm had not yet passed. What are you thinking? Ryder asked, running his fingers through her hair. That I am happy, that I love you, that I wish I could stop waiting for the other shoe to drop. Ryder pulled her closer. I am not going anywhere. Whatever happens, we face it together. That is what marriage means. I know. And that is what scares me. I do not want you to get hurt because of me. Amelia, look at me. She met his eyes and he cupped her face gently. You are not the reason the Cade brothers are dangerous. They are dangerous because they choose to be, because they cannot let go of their anger. That is on them, not you. And I would rather face them with you by my side than live without you. Do you understand? Amelia nodded, blinking back tears. I understand. They made love that night with a tenderness and passion that left them both breathless. Afterward, curled up in each other's arms, Amelia finally felt herself relax. This was what mattered. This love, this partnership, this moment. Whatever came tomorrow, they would face it together. The next few months passed in a kind of tense peace. There were no more fires, no more signs of the Cade brothers. Ryder continued to work at the ranch, and Amelia rebuilt her sewing business from the Powells' home. They saved money and made plans to build their own house on a piece of land David offered to sell them at a fair price. As autumn turned to winter, Amelia discovered she was pregnant. The realization filled her with a complex mix of joy and fear. She wanted this baby, wanted to start a family with Ryder, but she worried about bringing a child into a world where threats still lurked. When she told Ryder, he swept her up in his arms and spun her around, his face alight with pure happiness. We are going to have a baby, he kept saying, as though he could not quite believe it. You and me, we are going to be parents. His joy was infectious, and Amelia found herself laughing, her worries melting away in the face of his excitement. They told Martha and David that evening, and Martha immediately began planning, talking about baby clothes and cradles and all the things they would need. The winter was mild that year, and by the time spring arrived, Amelia was showing clearly. She felt the baby move inside her and marveled at the life she and Ryder had created. They had started building their house, a modest 2-room cabin on the land they had purchased, and Ryder worked on it every spare moment he had. I want it finished before the baby comes, he said, measuring boards with careful precision. I want to bring our child home to a real house, a place that is ours. Amelia watched him work, her heart full. This was the life she had dreamed of without knowing she was dreaming. A good man who loved her, a baby on the way, a home they were building together. It felt almost too perfect, too complete. And then, on a warm afternoon in early May, the Cade brothers came back. Amelia was at the house site bringing Ryder lunch when she saw 3 riders approaching. She recognized them instantly, felt her blood run cold. She called out to Ryder, who dropped his hammer and moved immediately to her side, his hand going to the gun he now wore constantly. The brothers rode up slowly, their faces hard, but something was different this time. Amelia could read it immediately. The anger was still there, but it was tempered now, mixed with something else. Exhaustion, resignation, grief that had finally been allowed to surface. "We came to talk," Cade said, and his voice was different too, less cold, more human. "Just talk? I give you my word." "Talk, then," Ryder said, his body tense but his gun remaining holstered. Cade dismounted, his brothers staying on their horses. He took off his hat and twisted it in his hands, a gesture so unlike the cold killer from before that Amelia blinked in surprise. "I have been thinking," Cade said slowly, "about what you said, about choices and consequences, about my brother and what he did." He swallowed hard. "I did not want to believe it. I did not want to think Jake could do something like that. But we rode to Virginia City. We talked to the sheriff there. We even found the Chinese girl, the one Jake went after." Ryder stiffened. "You did not hurt her?" "No," Cade said quickly. "No. We just wanted to hear her side. She told us everything, showed us the scars where Jake grabbed her. She was terrified of us, thought we were going to hurt her for speaking against him." His voice broke slightly. "She was just a kid, just a scared kid. And my brother, he tried to—" He stopped, unable to finish the sentence. "I am sorry," Ryder said quietly. "I am sorry you had to learn that truth. But it is the truth." Cade nodded, his eyes wet. I know that now. And I know I have been wrong. I have spent 8 months hunting you, blaming you, when I should have been grieving my brother and accepting that he made a terrible choice, a choice that got him killed." "We set the fire," one of the other brothers said suddenly. The middle one, Amelia thought his name was Sam. "At Miss Harper's cottage. That was us. We were still so angry we wanted to hurt you any way we could." Amelia felt Ryder tense beside her, felt his hand twitch toward his gun, but she put her hand on his arm, holding him back. "Why are you telling us this?" she asked. "Because we are done," Cade said. "We are done chasing, done trying to get revenge for something that was not murder. We are going home. But before we left, we wanted to say we are sorry. For the fire, for the fear, for all of it. And we wanted to pay for the damage." He pulled a leather pouch from his pocket and held it out. "It is not everything, but it is what we have, for rebuilding her house." Ryder stared at the pouch, then at Cade. Amelia could read the conflict in him, the anger warring with something softer. Finally, he took the pouch. "Thank you," he said, "for coming here, for telling the truth. I know that was not easy." "It should not have taken this long," Cade said. "I let my anger blind me. I let my brothers follow me down a dark path. But we are done with that now. We are going home to try to be better men, the kind of men our parents raised us to be." He held out his hand. Ryder looked at it for a long moment, and Amelia held her breath. Then slowly, Ryder reached out and shook it. "Go with God," Ryder said, "and find peace." Cade nodded, then remounted his horse. The three brothers turned and rode away, and this time Amelia knew they would not be coming back. She could read it in the set of their shoulders, the way they sat their horses. They had laid down their burden. They were finally letting go. Ryder pulled Amelia into his arms and held her tight. "It is over," he whispered. "It is finally over." Amelia felt tears of relief streaming down her face. "We are free. We can really start our life now." "We already started it," Ryder said, pulling back to look at her, his hand resting gently on her swollen belly. "But now we can live it without looking over our shoulders. Now we can just be happy." And they were. Their son was born on a humid July night, arriving with a lusty cry that announced his presence to the world. They named him Robert David Finch, after Ryder's father and the man who had given them both a chance when they needed it most. He was healthy and strong, with his father's dark hair and his mother's blue eyes, and Amelia fell in love with him the moment she held him in her arms. Ryder was a devoted father from the start. He would wake in the night to help with feedings, would spend hours just holding his son and talking to him in a soft voice. Watching him with their baby, Amelia felt her heart expand in ways she had not known were possible. They finished their house that fall, moving in just before the first cold snap of winter. It was small but sturdy, with a main room that served as kitchen and living area, a bedroom for them, and a small nursery for Robert. Ryder built furniture piece by piece, a table and chairs, a rocking chair for Amelia, a cradle that he carved with intricate designs. As the years passed, their family grew. A daughter, Ruth, arrived 2 years after Robert, followed by another son, William, 3 years after that. The house expanded with them, Ryder adding rooms as they could afford it, until they had a comfortable home filled with laughter and love. Amelia's gift remained, but she found she used it less as time went on. She did not need to read Ryder anymore. She knew him completely, loved him entirely, trusted him with her whole heart, and when she looked at her children, she saw only possibility and potential, not secrets or lies. She still helped people in town occasionally, identifying a thief here, warning someone about a dishonest business partner there. But mostly, she focused on her family, on the life she and Ryder had built. Ryder never stopped being grateful for the gift that had brought them together. "You saw me when no one else did," he would say, usually late at night when they were alone. "You saw the good in me when I could not see it myself. You saved me, Amelia." "We saved each other," she would always reply, because it was true. He had given her someone to trust completely, someone who valued her gift instead of fearing it. He had given her a home and a family and a love that felt as solid as the ground beneath her feet. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Ryder took Amelia back to the creek where they had first confessed their love. The children were spending the night with Martha and David, giving them a rare evening alone. They sat on the bank as the sun set, hands intertwined, comfortable in the silence. "Do you remember what you told me that day?" Ryder asked, and when I asked if you could read people. "I told you that I could see you were good even though you did not believe it yet. And I asked if you liked what you read in me." Amelia smiled. "You did. You were so vulnerable in that moment, so hoping I would say yes." "Do you still like what you read in me?" Ryder asked, turning to face her. "After 10 years of marriage, after seeing all my faults and flaws, after watching me struggle to build our life, do you still like what you see?" Amelia reached up and cupped his face, looking deep into his eyes. She did not need her gift anymore to know this man, but she used it anyway, reading him one more time just to feel the fullness of it. And what she saw made her heart sing. She saw a man who loved his family with everything he had, a man who worked hard every day to provide for them, to protect them, to make them happy, a man who had taken the worst moment of his life and transformed it into a catalyst for becoming better, kinder, more intentional, a man who would never stop trying to be worthy of the love he had been given. "I do not just like what I read in you," Amelia said softly. "I love it. I love you. More than I did 10 years ago, more than I did yesterday, more than I can put into words. You are the best man I've ever known, Ryder Finch, and I thank God every day that our eyes met across that dusty street." Ryder kissed her then, deep and slow and full of 10 years of love and partnership and devotion. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I love you, Amelia Finch," he said, "and I will spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you see when you look at me." "You already are," she said. "You already are." They stayed by the creek until the stars came out, talking about their children, their dreams, their future. They talked about expanding the ranch, about maybe buying some of David's cattle when he was ready to sell, about seeing their children grow up and have families of their own. They talked about growing old together, about rocking on the porch and watching grandchildren play in the yard. And when they finally went home, walking hand in hand through the quiet night, Amelia felt a contentment so deep it brought tears to her eyes. This was what she had been meant for. This life, this love, this man. Her gift had led her to it, but it was her heart that had made her stay. The years continued to roll by, each one bringing new challenges and new joys. Robert grew into a serious, thoughtful boy who loved working with his father. Ruth was bright and curious, always asking questions and exploring. William was the adventurous one, constantly getting into mischief and making his parents laugh. Ryder proved to be as good a father as Amelia had known he would be. He was patient and kind, firm when needed, but always loving. He taught his sons to work hard and treat people fairly. He taught his daughter that she could be anything she wanted to be, that her mind was just as important as any boy's. And he taught all of them about making choices, about taking responsibility, about being better than your worst moment. Amelia watched her children grow and saw pieces of both her and Ryder in them. She saw her perceptiveness in Ruth, who seemed to understand people in a way that hinted she might have inherited her mother's gift. She saw Ryder's strength and determination in Robert, his quiet confidence and steady work ethic, and in William, she saw both of them. The curiosity and the courage blended together. When Amelia was 35, David Powell passed away after a brief illness. He left a portion of his ranch to Ryder in his will, along with a letter thanking him for being like a son. Martha moved into town to live with her daughter, and Ryder took over the full operation of what was now Finch Ranch. It was hard work running a cattle operation in California in the 1880s, but Ryder thrived on it. He hired good men, treated them fairly, and built a reputation for honesty and quality. The ranch prospered, and with it so did the family. Amelia continued her sewing work, but now she also helped manage the business side of the ranch, keeping the books and handling correspondence. She found she had a head for numbers and negotiations, and she and Ryder became a true partnership in every sense of the word. On quiet evenings, after the children were in bed and the ranch work was done, they would sit together and talk about how far they had come. From that first moment across a dusty street to this life they had built, it felt like a miracle. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if you had not warned me that day?" Ryder asked one night. "If you had just let me leave town?" "I try not to," Amelia admitted. "The thought of not having you, not having this life, it is too painful to contemplate." "I think about it sometimes," Ryder said. "I think about how lost I was, how close I came to just giving up and accepting that I would never have anything good. And then I think about how you saved me, how you saw me and believed in me and gave me a reason to fight for something better." "We saved each other," Amelia said, as she always did. "I was lonely too, you know. I had people around me, but no one who really knew me. No one I could be completely honest with. You gave me that. You gave me someone who loved me not despite my gift, but because of everything I am." Ryder pulled her close, kissing the top of her head. "We were meant to find each other. I truly believe that. Out of all the towns I could have ridden into, all the times and places we might have missed each other, somehow fate or God or luck brought us together. And I will be grateful for that every day of my life." When Robert turned 18, he decided to stay on the ranch and work alongside his father. Ryder could not have been prouder. Ruth, at 16, had developed her mother's gift even more strongly than Amelia had anticipated. She could read people with just a glance, understanding their motivations and emotions, but unlike Amelia, who had struggled with the isolation of her gift, Ruth seemed to wear it more comfortably, using it to help people without letting it burden her. William, at 13, was still figuring out who he wanted to be, but he had his father's good heart and his mother's sharp mind, and both parents knew he would find his way. As Amelia approached 40, she found herself reflecting on the journey her life had taken. From a lonely girl in Missouri with a gift she did not understand, to a widow in California trying to build a safe life, to a woman who had found love in the most unexpected way. She thought about that first moment she had seen Ryder, the certainty that had filled her, the courage it had taken to involve herself in his troubles. "I do not regret a single choice I made," she told Ryder on the evening of her 40th birthday. "Every decision, every risk, every leap of faith, it all led me here, to you, to our children, to this life, and I would do it all again in a heartbeat." Ryder raised his glass in a toast. To the woman who could read a man in seconds and liked what she read in me. To the love of my life. To 40 more years together. To us, Amelia agreed, clinking her glass against his. To us and to everything we have built. As the years turned into decades, Ryder and Amelia grew old together in the way they had dreamed about that night by the creek. Their hair turned gray, their faces lined with the marks of a life well lived, but their love never diminished. If anything, it deepened, becoming something so fundamental to who they were that they could hardly remember a time before it. They became grandparents, then great-grandparents. The ranch remained in the family, passed down through Robert and then to his children. Ruth married a doctor and used her gift to help him understand his patients better, becoming an invaluable partner in his practice. William eventually left California to explore the wider world, but he always came home for holidays, bringing stories and laughter with him. On their 50th wedding anniversary, the whole family gathered at the ranch for a celebration. There were dozens of people there, children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, all of them carrying the legacy of the love that had started with a glance across a dusty street. Ryder stood to make a speech, his voice still strong despite his 76 years. 50 years ago, I rode into Stockton with nothing but a horse and a burden I thought I would carry forever. I was running from my past and had no hope for my future. And then I saw her. He gestured to Amelia, who was sitting beside him, her hand in his. I saw this woman looking at me like she could see right through me, like she knew all my secrets. And instead of turning away, instead of judging me, she chose to help me. She chose to believe in me. She chose to love me, and that choice changed everything. He looked down at Amelia, his eyes full of emotion. You gave me a life I never dreamed I could have. You gave me a home, a family, a purpose. You saw the good in me before I could see it myself, and you never stopped believing I could be better. I have spent 50 years trying to be worthy of you, and I will spend however many years I have left doing the same. I love you. Amelia Finch. More than words can say. Amelia stood, her own eyes wet with tears, and kissed him gently. And I love you, Ryder Finch. You are, and always have been, the best thing I ever read in my life. The family erupted in applause and cheers, and the celebration continued late into the night. But eventually, as the crowd thinned and the youngest children were carried off to bed, Ryder and Amelia found themselves alone on the porch of the house they had built together so many years ago. They sat in their rocking chairs, hand in hand, looking out at the land that had become theirs. The moon was bright, casting silver light across the fields and the cattle in the distance. The air was cool and sweet, carrying the scent of grass and earth. Do you remember what you said to me the first time we sat on your porch together? Ryder asked, when we were just starting to know each other. I said a lot of things, Mo, Amelia replied with a smile. You said that your gift could be lonely, that always seeing the truth, even when people tried to hide it, made it hard to connect with others. I remember. Are you still lonely? Amelia turned to look at him. This man she had spent 50 years loving, and shook her head. Never. Not for a single day since I met you. You made me whole, Ryder. You gave me a place to belong, a person who knew me completely and loved me anyway. I have never been lonely since the day our eyes met. Ryder brought her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. Good. Because I do not know what I would have done without you. You saved my life, Amelia. In every way a person can be saved. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, rocking gently, listening to the sounds of the night. Then Amelia spoke again, her voice soft but certain. When I first saw you, I read everything in you in just seconds. I saw your pain and your guilt and your goodness. And I saw something else, something I did not have words for at the time. I saw that you were mine, that somehow, in all the world, you were the person meant for me. And I was right. You were right, Ryder agreed, about everything. About me, about us, about the life we could build. You were right, and I was so lucky that you decided to take a chance on me. It was not luck, Amelia said. It was meant to be. From that first glance, we were meant to be. As the night deepened and the stars wheeled overhead, Ryder and Amelia Finch sat together on their porch, two people who had found each other against all odds and built a love that had lasted a lifetime. They had faced trials and dangers, had overcome obstacles and fears, had raised children and built a legacy. And through it all, they had loved each other with a constancy and devotion that most people only dreamed of. She had been the woman who could read a man in seconds. He had been the cowboy who hoped she liked what she read in him. And from that hope, from that reading, from that choice to take a chance on each other, had come everything that mattered. They would sit together on that porch for many more years, watching their family grow, watching the world change around them. And when the time finally came for them to leave this life, they would go knowing that they had lived fully, loved completely, and left behind a legacy of devotion that would ripple through generations. But on that 50th anniversary night, they were simply two people who had found each other and chosen each other and built a life together. Two people who had proven that sometimes all it takes is a glance, a moment of recognition, a leap of faith, and the courage to believe that love is worth fighting for. Ryder stood and offered Amelia his hand. "Shall we go inside, my love?" Amelia took his hand and let him help her to her feet. Even after 50 years, his touch still sent warmth through her. Even after all this time, looking at him still made her heart full. "Yes," she said, "let us go inside together." And together, as they always had been and always would be, they walked into their home, closing the door on another beautiful day in a life full of beautiful days. A life that had started with a gift, continued with a choice, and endured through the kind of love that only comes once in a lifetime, the kind of love that lasts forever.